This has massive implications on the Montreal Canadiens' future, as the truth behind the Joe Veleno signing is very, very interesting, with multiple rumors surrounding the Habs 2C situation and our young prospects now becoming more expendable than ever. Questions are circulating around how Montreal will address not only their depth center situation, but maybe how they could be prepped for an even bigger move. We have to dive into the big implications of the Joe Veleno signing, a new report about Mason McTavish reportedly more available than ever, and also a big update on Carey Price's contract and a trade, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And before we get into the McTavish and Joe Veleno, the truth behind all that, well, there is Joe Veleno, just in case you wanted to see a goal. We got to go into what Chris Johnston said on SDPN. He said once Carey Price's bonus gets paid out in September, there is a high chance that contract gets moved. Now, Jesse, this is something we've discussed a lot on the show because Carey Price, it's a $10.5 million contract, and we assumed this would get moved. Again, it'd be a paper thing, just like we did with Shea Weber. But with Montreal now $4.5 million over the cap after the signing of Joe Veleno, we need to relieve some of that cap. And we know Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton have made it clear we don't want to put Price on LTIR if we don't have to, because then we can't accrue space. And you know what? All signs are finally pointing to this, Jesse. I think this is finally the year that his contract gets moved, if it's just to free up some space for his final year officially on this team.
And while it's sad to see Price go, even if it would just be of a financial symbolic nature, because we know Carey Price is forevermore a Montreal Canadian, there is an exciting nature to this, Josh. Just the fact that it really shows that we're kind of flipping the page on our rebuild, getting into that next phase, kind of going forward. Of course, this just kind of makes sense because the league is ultra competitive. And Kent Hughes could have done this before, but now it's kind of making sense when we're getting the playoffs. And now we're looking to get back there and really allocating every dollar in that best possible place to really move this team forward to where it wants to go. Now, it would be super tough to see Carey Price traded to either the San Jose Sharks or the Pittsburgh Penguins are probably some of the most likeliest options. Yes, it would hurt our heart, but we know that Carey Price is going to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto as a Montreal. Can we relocate the Hall of Fame back to Montreal? Just saying, that's another can of worms. We'll get into that another time. But, we know that he's going to be going in as a Hab. Again, it's just kind of that next phase where we were kind of waiting for that. We knew that once we got rid of this contract, not that the rebuild signifies that it's completely over, but we're ready to really kind of shift into fifth gear. There's maybe still that sixth gear to hit, but we're getting there, which is kind of really big in all of this. So, of course, as much as it was hurt to see him go, even symbolically, you have to feel like there is some big implications of how that could help this team in a very competitive league nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, his contract coming off this year after this season, and then Gallagher and Anderson's coming off after next year. A couple of Habs legends there, Gallagher and Price, but their contracts coming off the books opens up the doorway to the next generation. So as much as, like you said, it'll hurt to see him go, it gives the Habs some flexibility. If we can enter the season with $5 million cap space without having to use LTIR, and you can accrue that up to deadline, it's just prime in Montreal to even be buyers at deadline or throughout the season, again, for maybe a 2C move, right? There's a lot of stuff that this opens up, so leave your thoughts on this down below, because I think this is just one big snowball, Jesse, that it's all moving forward, because this open cap space during the season could be open season for teams who are not succeeding as much as they thought they would, who might need to move on from some players. And look, one player that has been circulating a lot when his name has been mentioned around the Montreal Canadiens is Mason McTavish. And last Friday on Xhekaj and Price, we got to highlight this again because I saw this from NHL Trade Alert today. Jeff Marek, who again, Marek says stuff that is pretty educated. Jeff Marek is a fantastic person, fantastic journalist. He said, quote, "It's probably the most that Mason McTavish has been available." Goes on to say that nothing Pat Verbeek would do would surprise him, and there would be a lineup of teams interested. Now, I do wonder, Jesse, why? Why? If we had Mason McTavish, I would never want to let him go. The dude is unbelievable. He's physical. He's 6'1", 52 points in 76 games. I saw him as a pillar of the future of Anaheim. 0 plus minus is amazing as well. But they do have guys like Strom. They got other forwards like Leo Carlson. They got some interesting stuff going on over there. But again, we're talking about guys like the secondary market evolving. Could Mason McTavish be part of this? A guy early season? Jesse, again, I know there's you can only take a certain amount of rumors, but there's so much smoke around McTavish, I'm starting to genuinely believe that he could be on the move.
And as Habs fans, this is exactly what we want. We want to hear McTavish rumors, and we want to hear it coming from a good source. Yeah. And that's why we're a little bit blown away about this here at Habs Digest. We're like, could this potentially happen? It'd be unreal. You're almost kind of giving up hope because exactly for the same reason. It's like, why would they want to give up on such a young player? But the fact that they brought in a Michael Granlund, that they have another very talented center in Leo Carlson, like, they're good within their top six to say that they have a little bit of flexibility where they don't necessarily, they could have their both 1C and 2C spots filled by guys that could serve that position. Maybe it's Mason McTavish better than a Granlund. I would tend to think so. Yep. But again, they might feel like they have some of their answers in house. Frank Saravalli has also mentioned on his show that he feels that maybe like the losing is maybe taking a toll. Some people have even noticed to the body language with Mason McTavish, while, can be a little bit of a red flag, I think can be understandable when you're a young player, that it's maybe a sign that you just care a lot, that you're competitive and you don't like losing, which, can be viewed in a negative way. At the same time, you kind of want people to be competitive a little more so than not, kind of going forward. So very interesting situation, really in all of this here. Like Josh, like, are you, like, I'm pretty sure I know your answer, but like, would you include Xhekaj plus, like, for McTavish? That's like one of the few players that you probably, am I fair to say that you would include this player for? I'd love to hear from you and our viewers on that. Like, what's your threshold though to make this happen? Because we have to be fair. Like, our fans have said, we've said it. This is like the perfect archetype for our 2C.
Yeah, like we did a stream where we voted, we did a little head-to-head against all the 2C options earlier in the summer, and the one guy that we voted, that you guys, our fans, voted as the top target is Mason McTavish. And to be honest, this is the kind of guy that, yeah, like I really don't want to move Michael Xhekaj. He was born to be a Hab. It would be so hard on a personal level. But in terms of just pure business, yeah, absolutely, because McTavish is proven in the NHL. He's 22 years old, and he fits our timeline absolutely perfectly, and he fits the style of player we want absolutely perfectly. Again, left-hand shot center, like, it works so well. So yeah, I think I would. And there's a lot of guys that Anaheim might be looking at. I mean, Anaheim's in a weird spot. McTavish maybe wants that guaranteed long-term deal. Maybe Anaheim's not sure yet. And I bet you in Montreal, a team that could use some depth down the middle, we'd be willing to give him that guaranteed money right away. But let us know what you guys would move in a Mason McTavish package down below. And Jesse, this again just keeps compounding, because with the Joe Veleno signing earlier today, I think I got a picture. There he is. Look at that. Joe Veleno, Montreal native. Great. We signed him. He's a 4C. He's not our 2C, right? I don't even think he's going to be a 3C. He is a 4C. He has had some decent stats in the NHL, decent face-off percentage, took over 400 last year at 47%, took over 600 the year before at 49%, right? Very solid. Fine. But I think bringing him in, Jesse, this signifies to me, look, it's a one-year deal. It's a very, very low-risk move. I say he slots in a 4C. Maybe he goes down to Laval. But to me, when you have other guys in your system, like we were talking before the show about guys like Oliver Kapanen, guys like Owen Beck, yes, they're both right-hand shot centers, and Kapanen's played more wing at the pro level as of now because we had Dvorak and Evans. To me, this signifies that maybe Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton see these guys as pieces a la Logan Mailloux, who are expendable to some degree, at least maybe one of them, in a trade if it lands as someone bigger. Do I think an Owen Beck would land a Mason McTavish? No. But do you think it's crazy to say that now that we have Veleno, or at least we seemingly like, look, we're plugging this hole and it's not guaranteed to be you guys. Do you think this could mean that one of these two guys is on the move at some point soon? Or do you think that's maybe a bit of an overreaction to a guy like Joe Veleno?
I think when we're dealing with a certain Kent Hughes, we have to understand that he's always playing chess in terms of how he likes to operate as a GM. So he's always thinking a couple steps ahead. So for sure, think of the implications of that, of how, okay, maybe that you're going to have to part with one of your young prospects, so you'd like to take on some center responsibility in a trade kind of going forward. That kind of helps neutralize that. I think we're kind of hitting a couple different bases with this. And the thing is like, it's not a perfect fit, Josh, but I just absolutely love that Kent Hughes is shooting his shot, that he's motivated to make this team better by all accounts. And I mean, like, while Joe Veleno has had a hard time kind of hitting the ground running in the NHL, like his previous best was really just, 17 points in 74 games. We have to remember that this player was granted exceptional player status at the age of 15 in the queue, where it's like I believe he was the first player to be granted exceptional status at age 15. I might be wrong on that fact, but it's something we do not see all the time. So it speaks to that potential. He was able to really kind of light it up in the queue. And, we see that Kent Hughes, he's back on his reclamation game with all this here. The fact, though, about this is he's gotten a little bit of a bad rap. Alex Newhook, this guy's going to thrive on the third line. Going forward, former reclamation project, Kirby Dach, if this guy wasn't injured, we know he's talented. He'd be a good player. It's just the injuries, so there must be something that they're also kind of seeing in here as well when we're talking about Joe Veleno. I think it kind of, again, just kind of getting that depth going forward and looking to kind of improve this team. For me, it's kind of like a low risk sort of move, but again, kind of getting that depth. But it is interesting because why, we want players like Beck and Kaiden to get reps. Like, I think they've graduated squarely out of the AHL, and then you're bringing in a guy that looks to maybe stop them. For somebody like, I think that like a Beck or a Kaiden could be much more beneficial, and we want to develop them and prioritize them much over a Joe Veleno at this point. That being said, there must feel like there's some sort of upside that we can capitalize on. There's probably a couple moving parts here, but again, I just love that Kent Hughes, again, is motivated, that he's making things happen. It's all part of that larger plan here.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's been made clear that getting a left-hand shot center has been like a very top priority. It's why we've been in the rumors for Evgeny Kuznetsov and Joe Veleno before, and now it officially happened. And I know not everyone's thrilled with it, but it's like, again, if that's really the big goal here, like, I don't know, is having 4 right shot centers versus 3 right shot centers and 1 lefty that big of a difference that you don't want to play? Maybe Owen Beck, or maybe is it a tiebreaker? If you're like, wow, Owen Beck and Joe Veleno, they both seem to be at about the same spot. Maybe we'll take Joe Veleno. Also, another interesting wrinkle to this, Joe Veleno is an RFA at the end of this deal. So if we keep him around and we don't send him down where he'll have to pass through waivers, maybe someone will claim him, he's still an RFA at the end of this, which is kind of crazy to think about, but we still have our own RFA to deal with in Jayden, Struble, and there's so many things that are going down right now, but you're absolutely right. Kent Hughes is making a lot of moves, a great low-risk pickup in Veleno, but I can't help but feel that this is the start of a snowball that's going to lead to us getting our big 2C, but maybe we're way off base. Maybe you completely disagree. Let us know down below. We'd love to hear from you. Lots of conversations to be had, but that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That's the most important one. Thank you for watching every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.